indiscretions in matters of contracts, resources. I think this whole sea change which is taking place, which is undergoing in this creditor-lender-borrower relationship, because that old concept that money is once borrowed may or may not be returned. That unethical practice which existed in India, I think it's something which had to come to an end. And today we are seeing a large significant change taking place. And the process that follows it now has to be extremely transparent and objective. And I'm quite glad at the fact that the initial experience of the IBC itself, with the government maintaining an arm's length distance, and the entire process which has been worked out under a quasi-judicial supervision, itself is proving to be reasonably transparent and objective itself. And therefore, governments having done their little bit, I think we must now stop using ease of doing business. That's something which can be well achieved in India. The Indian businesses have to realize that it has to be the habit of doing ethical business, which is something which now I think needs to be introduced. And those who deviate from that course must always remember that the consequences will not only be a commercial and a civil death as far as their businesses are concerned, but the law would be tightened further if necessary in order to find out where they are and what is the extreme action that law permits against such delinquent persons itself. This whole business of NPAs, how much of it is due to business failures,
right,
and how much, some part of it in some companies may also be due to the fact that diversions may have taken place.
right.
Cases where of willful default are something which is much more than merely a business failure itself. The bank frauds which have now come to surface. Now, if you periodically have incidents of this kind, I think the entire effort of ease of doing business itself goes into the background. And therefore, it is these cards on the economy which take the front seat.
When you say ease of doing business going into the background, would you, are you referring to the fact that these kind of episodes might call for more regulation? Is that an issue that you see here?
You see, I think they call for every person in position with whatever responsibility to undertake to perform his job, and where regulation is lacking,
right,
if it needs to be strengthened, it needs to be strengthened. You see, ultimately, if a fraud is taking place in multiple branches of banking system, and you don't have a single employee who raises the red flag, doesn't that become worrisome for the country as a whole?
Sure.
And similarly, if you had the top managements who were indifferent to what was going on, or either unaware of what was going on, you had at least multiple layers of auditing system,
right,
which chose to either look the other way or did a casual job. And you had an inadequate supervision right on top from
right,
the supervisory agencies itself.
right.
And therefore, I think who did what will eventually be found out only in the course of whatever inquiries are on. But it does create a worrisome situation.
And is there scope for introspection, or is there need for introspection on the part of regulators also? I mean, you referred to it briefly. Because
you see, we must always remember that regulators have a very important function. Regulators ultimately decide the rules of the game.
right,
And the regulators have to have a third eye which is perpetually to be open,
Right.
and which must keep looking at the sector. But unfortunately, in Indian system, we politicians are accountable, the regulators are not.